When Anna was a baby, her mother used to toss her into the air and catch her. She'd giggle and squeal each time she was airborne. The feeling of the warm summer sun and air caressing her made her happy. Then one day, her mother missed. Anna never knew for sure just how accidental it was, though she grew to have her suspicions. She knew that everything got dark suddenly, and when she woke up, she hurt all over. She cried, and nobody came. They never came. As she wept, she heard it. From the darkness, a small soft voice hummed a little tune. It was peaceful and somehow wrapped itself about her and comforted her. The pain she felt melted away, and from that point on, she was never without it. When Anna got a little older and learned to talk, she learned what it called itself. Derpy. The years drug on in the small trailer on the edge of Humansville. The longer they dragged, the taller Anna grew. Her dark brown hair was often uneven due to the haircut she had to give herself. Her pale skin and light blue eyes gave her a slightly ghostly appearance that caused the other children to shy away from her and give her the nickname Haint. In truth, the only ones who hung out with her were the voice in the dark and her younger brother, Ryan. Ryan was 4 years old and her opposite in almost every way. His light blonde curly hair sat mounded on the top of his head. Somehow he had a rosy complexion, even though Anna never really saw him eat anything at dinner, and cherry blue eyes filled with delight and mischief. When he wasn't tagging along with Anna, he plopped himself in front of the TV for hours on end, watching cartoons to his heart's content. Anna loved Ryan, even if she preferred to be alone in her room, and the sounds of the voices that lived in those moments when nobody was home. She'd lie on her bed and close her eyes, and speak quietly to her friend Derpy, who would share secrets with her and would warn her against certain courses of action. When she was 6, she had told Anna not to hang out with Jarvis Peterson, who was heading to the creek to go frog gigging. That day, he stepped on a hollow log into a beehive and was stung to death. On that day, she knew never to doubt the advice of Derpy, but also decided to not let anyone know that she existed, especially her mother. She would just get mad, and when she got mad, it was hard for Anna to sit down for a good while. One day, after her mother had been particularly cross with Anna, she found herself in front of the TV with Ryan. Her backside and shoulders ached fiercely as she leaned forward on the couch.
What are you watching?
My Little Pony. It's funny.
I've never heard of it. It looks new. When did we start getting this in?
She asked, knowing the TV only got 3 stations on a good day. Ryan shrugged and continued giggling at the show. Yet, as he giggled, something about the show seemed unusual. It wasn't just that it was unusually clear. It was the fact that it almost seemed lifelike. The more she watched, the closer she crept toward the TV. The happy characters and bright colors filled her with the sense of wonder she did not know she was missing.
Don't look too close. What? You heard me. This isn't something you should be watching. Well, he's watching it. Why can't I?
Derpy fell silent as the front door to the trailer swung open, and her mother, a skinny, pock-faced woman, strode in with 2 paper bags in her arms.
Haint, don't just sit there, damn it. Get the rest or I'll tan your ass again.
Anna muttered to herself as she went out to the small car and grabbed as much as a little girl could and brought it into the trailer. After a couple of trips, the task was done, even if Anna muttered the entire time.
Why doesn't Brian ever have to do anything?
What did you say?
Nothing. Just going to watch the TV.
Her mother grunted indecipherably as Anna sat back down in front of the TV.
You're lucky. She loves you.
Ryan ignored her and continued to giggle at the show. The ponies bounded about on screen, sang songs, and got into antics. Anna felt like she could get used to the show as she leaned forward, paying closer attention to it. For the better part of 6 episodes, she leaned forward and watched with ever-growing interest, eventually moving from the couch to the floor in front of the TV.
Don't get too close to the screen.
Anna rolled her eyes.
Or what? I'll go blind? No. You're being weird, Derpy.
She said, leaning back into the coffee table. She winced as she made contact with it. When Anna finally got used to the feeling, she closed her eyes and sighed.
It's just a cartoon. Nothing bad happens with cartoons.
The words left her mouth and echoed through the air. Anna closed her eyes and listened to the ringing sounds of silence that echoed throughout the small trailer. It was as if all the sound in the world had vanished in an instant and had been replaced with the low audible ringing as her ears tried to find something, anything to focus on. When she tried to open her eyes, Derpy implored her to keep them shut, as a foul stench slowly wound its way up her nose and throughout the room. Anna's pulse quickened, and she bit her lower lip, afraid to open her eyes, but afraid to keep them shut. After what felt like hours, Anna opened her eyes and tilted her head forward. When she did, her gaze locked with the gazes of her brother, who was now in front of her, and the 2 ponies on the TV screen. She quirked her brow as she stared into their gazes. She shifted uncomfortably on the floor to the left and then to the right as the 3 continued to track her every movement.
Don't move.
Anna broke into a panicked sweat as she continued to stare at the trio, her heart beating wildly in her chest as they continued to stare. Finally, in a low, unearthly voice, they spoke in unison the word, meat. Anna shrieked and bolted from the TV.
Mom! Mom!
Pete, what the hell are you screaming for?
Anna quickly explained what had happened in the living room, that Ryan was acting creepy in front of the TV and doing whatever the characters on the show were doing. Her mom cocked her head back questioningly.
Who's Ryan?
My brother.
Girl, you ain't got a brother. You never had one.
Her mother lit her menthol.
Yes, I do. He's right over.
She turned and pointed at where he was standing. If her eyes could have widened more than they would have, her hand trembled as she pointed at the nothing that was there.
Shit, girl, you ain't even got the TV on. You just stare at that damn thing like it's on,
replied her mother as she took a drag.
But he was there.
You calling me a liar?
I swear to God, he was there.
Don't you go bringing God into this, you little brat,
growled her mother, who then grabbed Anna by her arm and dragged her off to her room.
Stop, please.
She begged as she was left by her bed.
I don't have time for you and your brand of crazy. Tyler's coming over tonight and it's me time. Your little rant just cost you dinner, hain't? Now you sit in here with your belly empty and you think about what you and your lion did,
scolded her mother as she closed the door behind her. Anna laid on the floor and cried. It wasn't just because her body hurt, or because her mother had yelled at her, but mostly Ryan. For 4 years, she had lived with that tiny ball of smiles and joy. During that time, even though he never got in trouble, he had been the one nice person in her life. She curled up into a ball and wailed into her clutched fists when the voice returned, and with it, a kind breeze that dried her eyes.
I'm so sorry, Anna. I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know your mom was still that way. I never saw.
It's not your fault. Some days I wish you would have killed me.
Don't wish that. It's my fault. I'm not strong enough to really keep you safe the way I should. I keep hoping that at some point, others would see what a wonderful little girl you really are, and that you deserve so much more kindness than you've been given.
The soft, warm breeze was combined with the soft scents of summer, much like those Anna had known when she was a baby. The sensations washed over her.
They call me Hate.
No, you're Anna, and if I can, I'll do whatever I might to keep them away from you.
Anna sniffled and slowly sat upright.
What are they? Why me?
Predators, the darkness, pick whatever you want to call them. They live in the hopes and fears of children everywhere. They like to play games with them, pretend to be whatever it is they want most. Then when they get hungry enough, they come for whoever it is that crossed their path.
Maybe I should just let them eat me. Not being here can't be that bad.
No, I won't let them. I may not be a match for your mom, but these things don't deserve you.
Anna sighed as she stood and looked out the window at the late afternoon sun. The sky was orange and tinged with purples and blues as the sun began to sink over the horizon.
I'm tired,
she said flatly.
Get some rest. I'll let you know when to move.
The sounds of moaning and creaking woke Anna in the dim night. Tyler was here, and apparently there was nothing else to do. Anna sighed as she stared up at the ceiling. Physically, she didn't ache anymore, though her heart felt hollow. She missed Ryan, even if he wasn't real, and sighed again sadly as the mists began to grow around her eyes.
Anna, are you awake?
Yeah.
Need to hide. It's here. Quick, under the bed, and don't move.
Anna did as she was told and slid under the small bed. Once there, she felt what could only be described as a warm wrap around her. Yet no sooner did she feel that warmth that she heard the soft stomping of hooves along the carpet in the living room, making their way to her bedroom door. She curled up into a ball and watched her door slowly open as 4 pink hooves slowly trekked about her tiny room.
Gosh, you sure are a good hider. I bet I'm going to have to work super duper hard to find you,
said the unnaturally happy voice.
Stay quiet and don't move.
Anna watched as the pink pony stalked about. Her hair reminded her of Ryan's, only pink. The pony even had a puffy tail and 3 happy balloons on its rear flank. A part of her thought it was silly that she was hiding from such a character. Yet deep down, she knew she had to listen to Derpy.
Come out, wherever you are!
The strange pink pony sang out as it hopped out of the room. Anna heard the words, but they contradicted with the feeling she could sense from her. It was angry, hungry, and growing rapidly impatient. The pink pony with the picture of balloons on her flank did not like this game. The pink pony did not like hunting her prey.
Who is that?
Pinkie Pie, now stay quiet.
Who wants a party? Pinkie Pie style. We'll have cupcakes and balloons and music, and Twilight Sparkle will be there. So will Fluttershy, Rarity, Rainbow Dash, Applejack, and of course, yours truly. It will be the bestest, most funnest time, just for you,
said Pinkie Pie, entering the room again. Anna slowly crawled backwards until her feet touched the wall behind her, while watching the pink toon hooves pace back and forth. Anna covered her mouth. She then held her breath when the hooves stopped directly in front of her position.
You're starting to really piss me off.
Pinkie growled under her breath, dropping her nice act as she turned around and around, trying to think of where she might be. Anna slowly began to inch her way along the wall. Her foot barely scraped against it, yet in the dark of the room, it may as well have been as loud as a cannon.
Quit! If you keep moving like that, she'll find you.
Anna looked up and saw that somehow Pinkie Pie had disappeared. Cautiously, Anna crawled away from the wall to see where the pink pony was at. Moonlight flooded the room from the window, making it easier to see and watch. But as Anna looked about, the pink pony was nowhere to be found.
Don't move.
Gotcha!
Squealed Pinkie as her face flooded the space underneath the bed. It smiled sweetly. Anna bit her tongue. The coppery taste of blood filled her mouth as she tried not to scream. Her heart leapt into her throat as she did her best to hold her breath, but failed poorly at it as the face stared at her. Gazing into the pink pony's friendly open eyes, she saw dark things. Black things swimming underneath the colorful creation. It was a face of happiness and warmth, masking pure evil. Anna could feel the hunger pouring off from it. It wanted her badly. For a moment, she and the smiling Pinkie stared directly at each other. Positive she was spotted, and it was all over. But after a moment, Pinkie broke away and started to visually do a sweep across the bed.
Don't move.
Pinkie frowned angrily as she looked, grinding her teeth in frustration, while a low guttural growl emerged. Anna could only guess as what she would do if Pinkie caught her. They were visible to her for now, but already it felt like a swarm of angry bees were inside her head, while sweat began to drip all over her body. Whatever Derpy was doing to hide from her, it wasn't going to last much longer.
You're not like the other ones, are you? You're different, but I can feel it in the air tonight. Your little friend can't keep you hidden forever.
Anna closed her eyes as her mind raced. Her mind raced, trying to find a solution. Yet the only thing she could think of was Ryan. He was the only thing that had been worth living for in that crummy trailer. The one happy thing in her life that she could see and feel. And now, it was gone.
Why bother? What are you doing? Don't go! Don't leave me! I can keep you safe! I promise!
Asked Derpy, her voice sounding weak.
Come out, you little shit. I promise, it'll be a blast.
If I come out, I need to ask you something, but you have to promise not to eat me, at least not right off. What are you doing?
I never said I would. Fine, come out. This is getting super boring anyway.
Anna slowly crawled out from under the bed and looked at the small pink pony. She knelt in front of it so that they were at eye level.
You're shorter than I would have thought.
You're exactly the height I knew you would be. So, ask your question. I've got a super party planned and you're kind of delaying it. It's not very nice.
Where... Were you Ryan all this time?
Pinkie Pie smirked.
Of course I was, silly. We were playing house. You weren't so good at it, so I decided instead of being the daddy, I'd be the little brother. I didn't think it would take 4 years to get to this point, but here we are, finally.
And you thought I was playing hide and seek?
No, but you kids do love your games. They were super ultra fun for you, so I make it one. You should have heard the last one squeal with delight or fear or whatever it was when I found him.
Anna began to tear up.
But, Ryan...
An illusion. I knew you loved him, but he was me in disguise. I'm really good at disguises. One time I made myself look like Fluttershy. It was super amazing. But right now, you're stalling, and I'm looking to throw the best party ever.
Anna, let me rap about you one more time. I could do it for long enough for you to get out of this trailer. You have a chance to...
Listening to your little friend, huh?
What?
Oh, we've known about her for years. Healing wounds, comforting the weak, showing kindness, but never accomplishing anything. She didn't even know I was Ryan, and certainly didn't keep your mom from treating you like crap.
Anna sighed and idly tapped the ground with her foot. She was right. What good would it be to stay alive if she had to live with this?
Pinky, what would it take for you to forget about this? What are you doing?
Forget about what? The guest of honor?
Well, what if I could give you 2 guests of honor instead of just me?
Pinky blinked as a small stream of drool slowly leaked out of the side of her mouth.
Are you trying to get me to owe you something?
In the next room, my mom and Tyler are doing whatever it is they do. If I give you them, I want you to spare me, bring back Ryan, and make sure I never have to worry about this ever again.
You ask for too much, little girl, succulent as they are.
Fine. Then any bullies we meet too.
Bullies?
Bullies, killers, rapists, whoever it is that's out there.
We can eat practically freely, and you just want your life spared to me to pretend I'm your brother?
Think of it as playing house.
Pinkie Pie covered her mouth, her eyes turning into a deep shade of black as she gazed at her for a long time. Pinkie Pie's eyes grew even darker as her smile grew unnaturally wider as she extended her hoof.
Haint, you have yourself a deal.
It wasn't long before the creaking and moaning from the other room turned into panicked and terrified screams. The screams didn't last long, nor did Anna expect them to. She sighed as she slowly stood up and went to the kitchen to make herself a peanut butter sandwich and enjoy the quiet night air.
Anna, why'd you do that? They're just gonna keep eating. There are people in this world that don't deserve any kindness at all. My mother was one of them.
Anna grabbed the milk and poured it into a tall glass, and much like her new and old shadow friend, enjoyed her late dinner.